The mimics are possibly the smartest enemy design in video games, creating the unpredictability that many horror games fail to encapsulate. In a thematic sense, they convey the same feeling of paranoia as the John Carpenter cult classic entitled The Thing, which was released in 1982, with the terror premise being to ramp up the tension until it amounts to nothing more than a red herring, only to destabilize the viewer's intentions with a well-timed twist. In the passing years, though, the horror genre has fallen foul to many tropes and cliches and distanced itself from the unnerving pressure features that made films like the Final Destination franchise stand out. And now, after 12 years of PG-13 rated horror experiences, we are finally getting a resurgence of true horror with films like It Follows and games like Prey. What Prey decided to do is latch on to people's fears, making its enemy design a devious combination of an arachnophobia, a fear held by 66% of the world's population, and the fear of the unknown. This shows that Arcane studies psychology instead of simply saying, how many cuts can we fit on this character's face? The philosophy behind the mimics a simple yet effective form of horror, with the question being posed as what's scarier than something that is humanoid? The answer is something you utilize in everyday life. The smartest thing about these creatures is the fact that these monsters aren't the poster boys to sell their product. This staple can be pinned to the predecessors of the horror genre, from classics like Aliens and Jason to newer releases such as Outlast. The monsters are always front and center so the human psyche can process the image well before we have even seen a clip or heard a scream in motion. This depletes the fear effect because the human brain can desensitize the danger if you believe to know what is coming. These products also assault the senses of orchestral music throughout the experience, but in Prey you hear nothing until it's too late. The team at Arcane doesn't need to rely on obligatory cheap and regulated jump scares, and instead they just need to sit back and let the blatant stupidity of the player create the real panic for them. This is less them filming the scene and instead telling you to envision it. The smartest thing that Arcane did when creating the creatures of Prey was to draw the mind into a false sense of security, thus playing to the game's overarching themes of pathology. Knowing that these creatures can manifest themselves as any inanimate object, who's to say that that floating bin you passed was a glitch or was it a monster? It makes you question, because this is a Bethesda game after all. How Prey's asset AI distances itself from other jump scare games on the market is through the tool of immersion. The creatures will only attack you once you interact with the world, otherwise, if they are unprovoked, they will remain dormant. This hide and seek mechanic is yet another intelligent move on the developer's part, not knowing if that gun in front of you on the floor is a godsend or a death sentence. The self-refuting prophecy is yet another layer drawn upon with these critters. Unlike many other characters that dangle their disquietude throughout your excursion, the developers decided to create a level of surrealism with heavy influences from Japanese artists such as Jinkito, found in the paintings and portraits that decorate this disused space station. This brings players back to the nostalgic creepy corridors of Dead Space when each encounter could have been your last. Many horror games now try to humanize their abominations and create a multi-layered third-dimensional moral ambiguity to its villains, with Resident Evil 7 being a prime example in this category. Playing with the notion that the Baker family is just misunderstood after a supernatural phenomenon possessed them. This trope may open up their character arc, but on the other hand it makes a foreboding terror sympathetic. Now that we the audience know that these aren't bad people, we no longer fear them, and this creates a dissonance, making each set piece and chase sequence more of a chore than a fright. Pushing this point further is how can a fleshed out character keep the tension on the player when we know everything about them, including their weaknesses. Recently this has become the norm, with more horror games trying to incorporate a level of depth to their villains, disregarding the true evil and unknown in favour of creating a fuller cast of characters with quirks and oddities. This is where many video games fail, because true fear stems from nothing until it's too late to react.
Your memory's shot full of holes. I know. I'm sorry, but it's permanent.